Hey guys, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name is Joe, and I am an extreme music junkie. Today we're going to kick off a new series called 3 from the Stack, where I'll be taking 3 records from my very small, very humble stack of records. But here in the first episode, instead of focusing on the bands and the tracks and stuff like that, I figured I'm going to look at the people actually behind the covers, the photographer and the graphic designer, who happen to be 2 of my biggest influences ever, Henry Diltz and Gary Burden. The 2 are a photographer/designer pair who kind of started in the late 60s and early 70s with early Californian rock. They were pretty much friends with all of the early time California rock sounds. Mamas and the Papas, Mama Cass, Steppenwolf, the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Jackson Browne, John Sebastian, Neil Young. Now, Henry Diltz was actually a musician back in the early hippie era, kind of slash late beatnik era. And so apparently one day he was given a camera by his friend, I guess him and someone else, I don't remember the story exactly, and he took that camera and started photographing, things around him, friends, stuff like that. And if I remember correctly, someone called him one day and was like, hey, do you want to take a picture? A band needed publicity shots. I'm sure, I can't remember exactly what it was, but so then the legend of Henry Diltz became a reality for us, and I'm very glad it did. The other person we're going to be talking about is Gary Burden, and Gary Burden was friends with Henry and friends with Mama Cass, all of them back in that time. And if I remember right, he was kind of persuaded by Mama Cass to go ahead and get into graphic design. And that's where Henry and Gary got together and made some of the greatest album covers that I've ever seen and have influenced me more than I think anything. Back in 2002, I remember seeing a television show that was called Under the Covers, and it starred Henry Diltz and Gary Burden, and it went through and it was just them telling stories about all of the different album covers that they had actually photographed for and they designed for. And man, honestly, when it comes to Henry, I could sit and listen to him talk like all day. The guy is an amazing storyteller, and it's evident in his work. So the first one I think I'm going to start with is Crosby, Stills and Nash's first album, which is called Crosby, Stills and Nash. Now, when they went to go film this, or when they went to go shoot this, one of them actually had seen the house. They thought it would be, a good spot for them to go and take pictures for their album cover at. And so they went there, and they just, took different pictures of them sitting on the couch and stuff like that. And in doing this, they didn't realize, actually Crosby, Stills and Nash didn't come up with their name at that point. So when you look at it, it's Nash, Stills, and Crosby. And looking back at the film, back when they were developing it, they kind of saw that and they're like, well, obviously we have to go back and we have to reshoot. Well, I guess they went back and it was only a couple days later, and the house was gone. So they had to go ahead and keep that. He kept everything real minimalist with the title and the Atlantic symbol and all of that. But so that house was gone just a couple days after they did this. And then, on the inside is a picture of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And they went to Big Bear, I believe, up in the mountains. And in Under the Covers, that show that I was talking about, David Crosby actually has a funny story about this picture. And, he's just funny. He's animated. He's funny. He's one of my favorite people. But great musicians. This is a great album. This is one of the albums that actually got me into collecting albums. I've always, grew up in the 80s, so I was always cassette tapes. Later in the 90s, I started doing CD, but I did cassette tapes for forever. That was my main, format that I used. And albums were never really something that was around me very much. They were always, either kind of taboo or we weren't allowed to touch them because I break everything I touch, or I used to, I still do. But I had gotten this at Goodwill along with a couple other albums that actually kind of made me want to start. I never really found a good album before. If I'd ever find an album, it was either the packaging was all messed up or the album itself was, not even worth going out and getting a turntable. I found this and a couple other albums, and I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and I'll go get a turntable. I'm very big into hi-fi, and if you couldn't tell. So thanks to this, it actually definitely got me started. That show in general kind of really got me more into, the California classic rock scene. And it's probably my favorite genre, but I love all genres. But yeah, definitely very awesome album. This is an original. It smells like an original. And this is probably one of my favorite to have that I'm most proud of. But so next one we will go over, that was photographed by Henry Diltz and was designed by Gary Burden. From one of my favorite bands, The Doors, Morrison Hotel. So the story with this is, I guess the Doors had actually seen Crosby, Stills and Nash's album, and so they contacted Henry and wanted him to shoot, their album cover. And Henry was like, well, do you have any ideas? Do you guys have anything in mind? And they were like, no, not really. And then Ray Manzarek said that, he and Dorothy, his wife, were driving around downtown LA, and they found this swanky little hotel that was called the Morrison Hotel. And so Henry was like, yeah, it sounds great, let's go. I guess they went to go shoot it, and there was only like one guy in the lobby. It was the guy behind the desk. And he actually, Henry had asked, we're just, is it okay if we shoot a couple of pictures real quick and then we'll be gone? And for a rather funny reason, if you research it, you'll find out, the guy said, no, you can't film in there. And so they went ahead and went outside, and he was like, well, all right, I'll have him just stand in front of the window and all that, and, see how that turns out. Well, as he looked through, I guess he could see the guy who was behind the desk kind of go around the desk, go up in the elevator, and then he took off. So being a very good photographer and pretty quick, he was like, run in there, go ahead and I said, hurry up, go run in there. And that was them. They took the shot, and the rest is history. I mean, this is, a very, 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 very popular album, and this has always been an album that I've always wanted to own. So for the back, after they had shot for the Morrison Hotel, Jim said, well, let's go out and let's, go get a drink. And they went down Skid Row, and they went and they actually found this, which is the original Hard Rock Cafe. So in perfect fashion, they went in and had a drink, and the rest is history. And then I guess apparently later, someone from England, I don't remember who or the story on that, but called and asked for, the rights to the name of the Hard Rock Cafe, and they gave it to him, and then that became the Hard Rock Cafe that we all know. So last but not least, we have Eagles' first album. This was a very, very fun trip. Now, I guess when a lot of other photographers went out with the bands and they would film them or whatever, they would just spend 5-6 hours maybe, going around shooting. But when Henry and Gary went out with them, it was a full-blown adventure. And this was definitely one of them adventures. So they went out into the desert, and they wanted to become one with the desert. The Eagles weren't really from California, and so they wanted to experience everything full force. So they went out in the desert, and Gary got some really nice shots, of the desert, and was out photographing things like that. And, well, what the guys were doing was they were all eating psychedelics, and they were under the influence of these said psychedelics in this picture. And when, Gary Burden designed this, he put the nice eagle on there, and there's a very good story that they tell in Under the Covers about this. But what they did was they glued this closed, and it was never supposed to be that way. But I was happy to find when I bought this this year, that they actually went back to the way that Gary had wanted it, and he wanted it to completely open up to a full, panoramic picture of them down in a canyon, and then the cactus above them and the sunset, and then the eagle soaring up above. Just amazing, kind of how far they went and thought into these albums. And another thing that the old timers remember, and they always said, was that people really like the double fold album, especially the people who were into, the more earthy, herby types of things. Was good for separating seed from stem and things like that. Do with that as you will. But I was really, really happy to find this, and this is definitely something that I also have been looking for. My plan is to try to collect all of Gary Burden's work and all of Henry Diltz's work, as far as album covers and things like that. Publicity photos and stuff like that would be cool to have, like reprints and stuff of, but two very influential people, two gods to me and to the music community. And I just wanted to show you that. Definitely go and check out that show that I'm talking about. It's called Under the Covers. I'm going to link the YouTube version that I had found up there. And I definitely recommend, if you're into any kind of music, go ahead and check that out. Henry and Gary are amazing storytellers, and whoever produced that and did that, kudos to you, because that was one of the biggest influences on me. And I recorded it onto a VHS cassette and played it so much that I muffled it out, and I just loved it. I watched it over and over. I lost it somewhere years ago, and I'm very upset about it. I wish I still had it, but thanks to YouTube, we have it. And that's why, thank you so much to the vinyl community as well. I think that's one of the most wholesome, influential, good things going on YouTube now. And the people within the vinyl community are absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the most real things going on right now, to be honest with you. But yes, thank you so much for watching. This is the first installment of 3 from the Stack. And next time we'll do 3 more from the stack. Have a very good one, and thank you so much for watching.